So what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Copperfield Kids Online. We are so excited that you are watching this morning. Today is going to be an awesome service. Do you want to know why? Because we are continuing in our series today called Kids Choice. Here's how Kids Choice will work. Every Tuesday, we will be posting a voting poll on our Copperfield Kids Facebook page called Kids Choice. Your job is simple. All you have to do is pick your favorite item, word, or phrase between two options that we list. So for example, if I ask you, choose between hot or cold, you're gonna choose one. Or maybe I might ask you, cheerleader or scientist, you're gonna choose one. Then you're gonna tune in on Sundays to see how your choices are used live in our kids' worship services. So let's get to it. The first choice that you were given this week was the choice between Funky Monkey or Big House. You guys chose Funky Monkey. So let's stand to our feet and worship.
Open my eyes so I can see the wonderful things you have for me. Open my eyes so I can be all that you have planned for me. Head up, head down. Arms to the sky, arms to the ground. Come on now, spin around. Stop. Funky monkey with it. Open my eyes so I can see the wonderful things you have for me. Open my eyes so I can be all that you have planned for me. Head up, head down. Arms to the sky, arms to the ground. Come on now, spin around. Stop. Funky monkey with it. Head up, head down. Arms to the sky, arms to the ground. Come on now, spin around. Stop. Funky monkey with it.
That was fun. Are you ready to find out the results of your second Kids' Choice voting poll? We asked you, what game should we play? Balloon Walk or Doodads? You guys chose Balloon Walk. Okay, good. Hey, we're gonna play a game called Balloon Walk. So if you have a balloon, you can play this game at home. Very simple. All you're gonna do is set up some sort of obstacle. I'm in charge. Set up some sort of obstacle. Each person gets a balloon. Kilm's got one. Garrett's got one. The job is on my go and only on my go.
Yep.
They're going to run the obstacle course and on my go. The obstacle course in front of me, they've got to turn around and they've got to come back.
You shh.
Right?
I want to get
Without losing the balloon.
Wait, we go down
If
and
they
back.
lose the balloon, they've got to go back to the starting point.
Down and back?
Down and back.
Okay.
Got it?
Why am I always doing these?
What happens if you lose the balloon?
Why is Hunter not doing this?
Well, that's a good question. He's gone for the day. But anyways, so
Convenient.
are you ready?
No.
Are you ready?
I'm ready because I'm
Are you
ready.
guys ready?
Yeah.
Fine!
Go!
These aren't spaced correctly. This is like wearing that stupid dinosaur.
Oh, you start over! Oh, slow and steady wins the right side seat.
I learned this from Steve Casada.
Slow and steady. Oh, I meant to say you're not allowed to touch it.
I didn't touch it.
And the winner is Garrett.
That was a lot of fun. I'm so glad
Maybe.
that I won that game.
I don't like how you said that.
Well, I think it was rigged, but that's okay.
Can't be rigged if I'm just better.
I think your balloon was smaller than mine. It was easier to hold.
Tanya blew that up, and she is full of hot air.
Oh, that was rude. Great job, though, guys. I'm glad y'all got to play with us. Are you ready to check out today's main point?
I guess so.
Okay. Today's main point is always choose what is right.
Nope.
Why not?
No, why not what?
Why don't you always choose what's right?
I didn't.
I didn't either.
That's
But
why I
it was
just
only
asked
one
you.
time, though. It was only one time I didn't make the right decision.
Just once?
Just
I
once.
find that hard
I mean,
to
I'm not
believe.
going to say when, but maybe it had something to do with you.
That is rude.
You're rude.
She is being not very
Remember,
nice.
the main
That
point
was
is
not a good move.
Hey, I was talking. That's rude. You're interrupting.
She turned that back around on me.
Remember, the main point
Hanging out with
to
Tommy.
the answer to the question is, what did you learn in today's kids' worship?
Not a whole lot, but
Oh.
everything.
What was it then? What did you learn?
Everything.
Okay. You're going to tell us something in just a second.
I learned math, science. We talked about Lazy Russ.
no,
El
that
Peter.
that was before. Remember,
Before what?
We're on Daniel now.
What? I have been here the whole time.
Okay, so you're ready to help me out for the next point. Are you ready?
I don't know what I'm ready for.
Okay, I just need you to
What week are we on?
I just need you to be quiet and listen. Okay, so remember, we let the kids have choices, right? Do you all remember?
I don't like when the kids have choices.
Sorry, that's the whole series.
It
Kids
does not
choose.
work out well for me.
Well, the choice was between a baseball umpire or Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So,
Did you know I used to be Mickey Mouse?
no, well, that's what you get to be today.
That's rude.
The kids chose Mickey Mouse. So, here's what we're going to do. You get to be Mickey Mouse telling our main point.
No, you get to be Mickey Mouse.
No, not me. It's the Adventures of Garrett.
You get to be Mickey Mouse.
Okay, so the main point is always choose what is right. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm scratching my face.
It's not really good right now. That's how you get germs.
Oh, and my nose.
Mm-mm,
It
that's worse.
itched.
Okay, you ready? Always choose what is right as Mickey Mouse.
I go way back, throwback to the Goofy movie here. Mickey Mouse wasn't in the Goofy movie.
He wasn't in the Goofy movie.
Well, boys and girls, always choose what's right. I'm not good at these.
That's good. That's pretty good. That wasn't bad.
If
All
we
right.
had one about like trying to talk like Miss Tanya, got that nailed down.
Tanya's one of a kind. You
Mickey
can't be
Mouse?
like Tanya.
Not the same.
No, Tanya's one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that was a pretty good
One
job.
of a something.
That was pretty good. So let's say it together. You ready? Always choose what is
Right!
right.
Right!
That was my part.
Oh.
Always choose what is right.
Right! I like that word.
Choosing what is right can sometimes be easier said than done. Today we are going to be talking about what it takes to stand up for what is right and how God can always help us choose what is right. So let's get started out with the adventures of Garrett to see what kind of choices Garrett will make today. Are you ready? Watch this.
I would like to introduce you to a friend of mine. Garrett Garner is an explorer and loves nothing better than a good adventure. He's been on some really wild adventures and always comes back with crazy stories. Some of his adventures are so crazy and bizarre that I'm convinced they're fake. Garrett always tries to make the best decisions throughout his day, but sometimes it gets tricky and he makes poor choices. Let's jump into today's adventure.
The Adventures of Garrett. There was not much you would call special about this particular day. It seemed fairly normal. Just your average day with nothing too interesting going on. At least that's what Garrett thought. It turns out this day would be anything but normal, average, or uninteresting. For you see, this day would find Garrett in the midst of one of his most adventurous adventures. While at work, Garrett hears a strange noise outside of the church. Being a fan of good detective shows, Garrett knows that what he needs to do is to face this object head on. So Garrett heads out of the front doors of the church to try to find out what this mysterious noise is. As he wanders around outside, he thinks perhaps the noise could have come from the fountain. So he wanders over to the fountain. What does he find in the fountain? Well, of course, he finds a blow-up alligator. I wonder who left this blow-up alligator here. Garrett ponders this for a minute and thinks, there probably is no way that this blow-up alligator made the noise that I heard, but I should probably remove this from the fountain area. So he takes off his shoes, he takes off his socks, and he climbs into the fountain and removes the blow-up alligator. Taking the blow-up alligator with him, he decides to keep searching for the mysterious noise that he has heard. He wanders over by the trees. Perhaps something was rustling in the bushes. As he walks through the grass, whoops! He feels his bare foot step right on something. But he can't quite tell if it's sticky or if it's a crunchy something. Oh, yeah! Well, that was quite an adventure on this adventurous day. Once Garrett finally figures out what it was that he stepped in, he can move on. So he still has this mysterious noise that he's trying to find out where it came from. So he wanders around the front of the church a little bit more, looking under bushes, looking under rocks, looking up in the sky for no apparent reason. I'm not sure why anything would be up in the sky, but he looks up there for quite some time. And then, seemingly, he's tired from all of his searching. There's plenty of benches around here, so without even thinking, he decides to have a seat and just ponder his thoughts and try to figure out where this noise could be coming from. But when he sits down on the bench, it is not bench material underneath him. It is definitely one of two things. He has either just sat on a carton of eggs or a cream pie. Oh, yeah! This really isn't working out for this crime solver who has seen many shows about solving mysteries, many shows about solving mysteries about strange noises, but it's just not working out for him. He knows he's seen some shows where certain detectives do things different ways. They might search for clues in different ways. What ways could Garrett search for this mysterious noise? The only thing that he can think of is that he can either search by doing cartwheels around. That might enable him to see what's on the floor and what's at eye level at the same time. So, should he do cartwheels to try to find this noise? Or should he just run as fast as he can, like a crazy person, and try to look at every single area. Garrett's now getting pretty dejected. He's tried this crazy trick to try to find this noise, and he hasn't found anything. He has looked everywhere out in front of the church. He decides, maybe it's time for me to give up. And as he slowly turns around to walk back into the church, he notices something. How could he have missed this before? Right out in front of him, right out in the open, it's Hunter. He knows that it's Hunter who has made this noise. He is sure of it. He's heard Hunter make plenty of noises in his lifetime, so he knows what Hunter sounds like. How could he have missed that? Well, at least now he knows.
Garrett had to make a lot of decisions during his crazy adventure today. We all have decisions and choices to make in life. Every single day we're faced with decisions or choices. Will we obey? Will we do what is right? Will we brush our teeth? Will we put on clean socks? It's a lot to handle at times. Sometimes decisions you make in life are smaller and not near as significant. But other decisions are really big ones. Last week, we talked about the biggest decision that you will ever make. Do you remember what we talked about? That's right. We talked about the decision to follow Jesus. When we talk about choices, it kind of makes me think of a pretty cool guy from the Bible named Daniel. Daniel was faced with a ton of choices in his life and his friends. And how they handled these choices serves as a great example for each one of us. So let's go live now to our WWJD newsroom reporters and find out more on Daniel.
Good morning. I'm your Kids Choice News anchor, Tanya Blanco, and filling in for Brian Clevenger is my co-anchor, Michelle McDonald.
Thanks for having me again. It's great to be here.
We love having you here. Brian is currently away on assignment in some remote area of the world. We've been told he will be returning next week.
In today's news, we will be taking a look at some of the decisions that Daniel's friends had to make.
Last week, we reported that Daniel's story began with him and his friends in captivity.
Yes, in fact, King Jehoiakim was the ruler of the Israelites. But after 3 years, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and captured it. Then it was reported that King Nebuchadnezzar took the Israelites captive, stole treasures from the temple, and took them all back to Babylon with him.
Afterwards, Daniel and his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were selected from the captives in order to serve in the royal palace.
We learned that they were faced with a tough decision, whether to obey God's commands or the king's commands.
Yes, and let me remind you that their choice was to obey God, and because of that, God rewarded them. Last week, we ended our news report with Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being placed in positions of high power. In fact, resources told us that these guys had become the king's right-hand men.
Continuing in today's top story, it was reported that King Nebuchadnezzar believes himself to be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, he does. In fact, we can see here in this slide, that he built a gold statue of himself that was 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide.
That's so tall.
It's so big.
So, yeah.
It's a little obnoxious.
Yes, agreed. We received reports that he gathered together all the people of the land. They were instructed to attend the big unveiling of his statue.
Let's check out our source, the Bible, and confirm this report is true. In Daniel chapter 3. So, all these officials came and stood before the statue King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald shouted out, "People of all races and nations and languages, listen to the king's command. You, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and other musical instruments, bow to the ground to worship the King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. Anyone who refuses to obey will be immediately thrown into blazing furnace." Daniel 3:3-6.
Yikes.
Yeah. Ouch.
Bow down and worship a statue? That doesn't sound right.
No.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had a very important decision to make. And to make it more difficult, resources tell us that they knew about God's command that says, "You must not make for yourself an idol of any kind or an image of anything in the heavens or on the earth or in the sea. You must not bow down to them or worship them." And we can find that in Exodus chapter 20, verses 4 and 5. So what would they do? Would they bow down and worship the idol? Or would they stand up for what was right and be immediately thrown into a burning, fiery furnace? What would you do?
Well, the Bible, our true resource, tells us that everyone bowed except for 3 men.
Okay.
Can you guess who those 3 men were?
Well, I'm going to say Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yep, you are correct. Daniel at this time was not with them.
Right.
He was working elsewhere in the palace.
Right.
Onlookers reported that as the instruments continued to play, these 3 men stood confidently and courageously, refusing to bow down. They were confident that they had made the right choice.
Yes. However, it was shocking that some people in the crowd saw that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not fall down and worship the false god, and they ran to complain to the king about it.
We were told that King Nebuchadnezzar was furious and commanded Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him. He was so angry, maybe the angriest he has ever been.
Let's go to our source, the Bible, to find out what happened. King Nebuchadnezzar asked them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the gold statue I have set up? I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power?" And we can find that in Daniel chapter 3.
It looks like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew that they could trust in God. They knew that he was and is the one true God.
They knew that the scriptures found in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 were true. Does that verse reference sound familiar?
It does sound familiar.
It should. It's our memory verse. Let's check it out.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.
If you recall, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego have just defied the king's orders. They did not bow down to the false god and now have been brought before the king. And he is fuming mad.
Yeah, what would you do if you were them? Would you pray to the king or to God? Would you change your mind and decide to bow down if given a second chance? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had their minds made up. Let's go to our source, the Bible, for the real answer. Oh, Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up. This comes from Daniel 3:16 through 18. The Bible tells us that King Nebuchadnezzar was so furious that his face became distorted with rage. What do you think that looked like? Like, I don't know.
I feel like maybe our kids know.
Oh, our kids probably
They might know what a
Yeah.
rage face looks
Yeah,
like. I don't know.
I think they would.
Maybe, I don't know. Reports that followed said his anger didn't stop at his face.
Nope.
The king ordered that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than normal.
Whoa.
It was reported that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were tied up and thrown into the furnace. In a turn of events, it seemed the fire was so hot that the guards who threw them into the furnace were instantly killed by the flames. But not before they tied up and threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the roaring flames.
It appears as though Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were so confident in their beliefs that there was nothing that was going to happen to them that was going to make them stray away from their beliefs.
Right, that's right. Even intense flames couldn't shake their beliefs. They had made a choice and were firm in it. It seemed they had confidence in God.
Yep. No matter what, they were going to always choose what was right. Hold on. I'm getting something. We can't get a visual on you. Can you share with us what's going on? What are you seeing? Oh, it appears that what started out as 3 men being thrown into the furnace has now turned into 4 men. Okay, there is concern about who the 4th man is. Okay, oh, we do have some footage of that. Oh, okay. Michelle, let's go to our source, the Bible, to find out the true story of what is being reported.
Let's do that. So Daniel chapter 3, verses 24 through 27 report, "Suddenly Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, 'Didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace?' 'Yes, your majesty, we certainly did,' they replied. 'Look,' Nebuchadnezzar shouted, 'I see 4 men, unbound, walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like a god.'"
Our sources tell us that Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace, and he shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
In fact, the high officers, officials, governors, and advisors crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them.
It is a miracle. Not a hair on their head was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. Bystanders said they didn't even smell of smoke.
Wow. Afterwards, sources tell us in Daniel 3, Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. They defied the king's command and were willing to die rather than serve or worship any god except their own God." And he says that in Daniel chapter 3, verses 24 through 27.
We learned that Nebuchadnezzar praised the one true God and made a decree that no one could ever say against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. There is no other God who can rescue like this.
And as if that were not enough, the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to even higher positions in the land.
That day, they proved the power of the one true God, and they showed that we should always choose what is right.
This takes courage.
It does.
It takes confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But we can be sure that when we put our trust in God, He will give us the courage and confidence that we need.
We leave you with this final thought for the day. Always choose what is right. From all of us here at WWJD Channel 316, we want to thank you for turning into our weekend news report. We hope you will join us again next week for more Kids Choice News.
So is it always easy to do what's right? Of course it's not. It can be really difficult at times. And chances are you're never going to be faced with an ultimatum to obey or be thrown into a fiery furnace. Thank goodness. But, boys and girls, you will face choices, and you will have to live with the consequences, good or bad, of those choices. It's up to you. You decide if you will choose to do what is right. But know this, God doesn't ever leave you alone in your decision. He is always there to protect you and guide you. When you decide to do what is right, God will give you the courage to face whatever may come your way. Just like He was with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, God is with you through anything and everything that you may go through, even a fiery furnace. So when you choose to do what is right, God will reward you, protect you, and your faith will grow stronger and stronger. So remember, our main point today is always choose what is right. Let's pray. God, we thank you so much for today. Thank you for your lesson in Daniel. And God, the lesson that these three young men, Father, were obedient to you, God, that they only chose to worship you, Father, that they would not worship any false gods. And God, what a great example they are for us in our faith. Lord, I pray for these boys and girls that you would give them courage, Lord, to stand for what's right and to always choose what is right. God, would you grow their faith? Would you protect them? Would you bless them this week until we come back together again next week? In Jesus' name, amen. So now it's time to see how well you guys were paying attention. Have fun with the Kids Choice Go quiz.
Welcome back to In-Flight News, where we keep you up to date with what is coming your way. We want to remind you that coming up is virtual VBS.
Yes, it's going to be Wednesday nights in July.
Super excited.
Have you signed your kids up?
I haven't yet. I need to remember to do it.
Yes, yeah, definitely get it on your calendar. I signed mine up today, and it's really important to sign up online. We have limited boxes of materials. So
yeah, boys and girls, you need to make sure you tell your parents that if you want to be part of our virtual VBS, that they need to sign up because there's only a limited amount of supplies for your take-home stuff. Yep, that's important.
Well, boys and girls, we hope you enjoyed our new series today. Don't forget to check out Facebook for Kids' Choice Voting.
We will see you guys back next week for another episode of Kids' Choice. Bye.